Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. My name is Abby and I'm going to be your host for this afternoon. We also have Michael on hand to answer any questions along the way, so do keep them coming throughout the session so we can keep Michael busy as well. Today we're going to be looking at the company archive within your Sage 50 Accounts software. This webinar is a little shorter than usual, so it'll take us around 30 minutes, give or take, depending on if we have any questions outstanding at the end. Please note as well, a link to this recording is going to be included in your follow-up email as well. Okay, so before we begin, I just want to cover a little bit of housekeeping. So what you'll see is that you'll be placed on mute when you join. If you do have any questions, you can use the questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen just by clicking the icon that looks like a little speech bubble with the question mark in the middle. That's where me and Michael will be able to pick your questions up today. We do also have a handout as well. You can just click on the button that looks like a little document with the folded corner. We would recommend downloading this as it will have some links to some helpful resources on our help centre. We do recommend to download the handout on the session as well, as it won't be available after the session has ended. Okay, so this is what we're going to be covering today. So this session is going to be shorter than usual if you are a regular. We have created this topic based on the amount of questions we have gotten on previous webinars. Now, Company Archive is one step of a bigger process if you are looking to clear out your data. So first we're going to cover what is an archive. So we want to clear up that confusion of what an archive actually is, how it works, and what are the benefits. We've also have some frequently asked questions from other sessions as well. There will also be some demonstration on how to take an archive and how to access it. We'll also look at the differences between an archive, a backup, and the clear audit trail process. And then towards the end of the session, I will summarise what we've talked about, and we'll also then look at upcoming webinar sessions as well. Now, before we move on, I just want to launch a poll on your screen there. It's more like a little quiz question, just testing your knowledge. So we just want to get an understanding of how many of you actually know what an archive is. So does it remove all data? Does it take a read-only copy of your data? Or does it back up your data? Now, be honest as you can. There is no judgment if you do not know the answer, and that's fine, because that is the reason why we're doing this in-depth session on this topic today. So you can see the votes are coming in nice and quickly. So what we usually do is we usually wait until we get around 70–75%. And then what we'll do is we'll share those votes with you as well, so you can also see the outcome. Okay, so we've got around 70%. So what I'll do now is I'll close that poll. Don't worry if you haven't voted. So we'll close that down and I'll share the results with you. So what you can see is we've got 26% of you think it removes all data, and 74% of you think it takes a read-only copy of your data. So if you voted for the second one, so it takes a read-only copy of your data, that is the correct answer. There is often confusion that the archive removes all data, but that's what the clear audit trail process does. But we're going to go through that in more detail. So I'll do is I'll close that poll down. And we'll get straight stuck in. So what is an archive? So an archive takes a read-only copy of your data as it appears in the program at the time, including any logon details. The best way to describe it is that it's like taking a photograph or a snapshot of your data, but it allows you to browse through it like a normal company. So it creates a separate file. Now you cannot add anything new, and the only elements you can edit or remove is records for GDPR purposes. So for example, your customers or your suppliers. It allows you to revisit historical data view figures, run reports as well. Please note, anything that you do change in the archive does not update in the live data, and vice versa. So anything you change in the live does not update in the archive. And just a reminder as well, it doesn't remove any old transactions. So it doesn't remove any information from the program. It creates a file that is then saved within the company folder of your data path, which then can be opened like a separate company to your live data. Be aware, attachments are not included in this, so we would recommend to take a backup to include any attachments. You must have the right user permissions to create an archive and access it. So if you log in as manager, you will automatically have access. But if you log in and you do not see the options for archive, then you will need to have your level of access reviewed using the manager login details. And lastly as well, you must have access to the software and a valid license to be able to view your archive file as well. Please note that the archive files as well do not sync over remote data access. You might be wondering, well, when might I take an archive? You can take an archive at any point in time, and there is no limit on how many times you can take one. But we strongly recommend to take one prior to running the year-end process and any time you run a clear audit trail process. You may run a clear audit trail straight after running the year-end. So if you've already taken the archive pre-year-end, you wouldn't need to take it again. But if you were to run a clear audit trail mid-year, you would then take an archive and a backup prior. Now, if you aren't familiar with the clear audit trail process or the year-end process, I've provided some guides there on the right-hand side. If you've got the handout downloaded, you'll be able to access those as well. You can also find these guides on the Help Centre if you want to search for them manually. Okay, we've just had a question come through there. Michael's going to pick that one up. So I'll let Michael pick that one up and we'll move on to the next slide. So with archiving, as I've mentioned, we've talked about, the typical times that you might want to take an archive or when it's typically done in the software. So for example, we'll run the year-end process to close the prior year. On the 3rd of April, we reconcile the quarterly VAT return and submit. On the 16th of May, we run a clear audit trail process, which removes the data. And then on the 21st of July, we're going to reconcile a second quarterly VAT return. On the 6th of October, we're going to clear some records. So we're going to get rid of some old customers and suppliers. And then at the end of mid-December, we're going to then start to prepare for the next year end. So if you're going to be running the year end, we advise to run a backup and an archive. If you're just going to be doing a VAT return, you just run a normal backup. If you're going to be doing the clear audit trail process, again, you would run a backup and an archive. Again, doing your next quarterly VAT return, just a backup. If you're going to be clearing records, you're going to be deleting all customer records and suppliers, then you would run a backup and an archive at that point. Sorry, move on there. So there you can really see, you get an idea of how you might want to utilize when to take an archive. But that means that you can access it at any time. And also as well, you might find that some of them do overlap, because what it does is it takes a copy of everything in your Sage, apart from transactions attachments. So it takes a copy of everything, and then as it stands. So you might have historical data and current data in there at the same time. Okay, so let's cover some frequently asked questions. So after archiving, can you then delete old records you no longer use, such as customers, suppliers, and nominals? Archiving is just one part of a process to reduce the size of your data. You are unable to clear any records until you've ran a clear audit trail process. Do I have to specify a date to run an archive? It creates a snapshot, so a read-only copy, of your data as it is at that point in time, including current and historical data. So you can't specify a date that you run the archive. It will just literally take a photograph of everything that's in your software and create a compressed file. Can I select certain areas of the software to archive? So no, it will always make a full copy of everything in the software as it is today, new and old. So what we'll do now is we'll pop into the software and we'll look at what this looks like. So bear with me a moment. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is, the various places that you can take an archive. So if we go to Tools, Period End, and then Year End, you can see here we've got the in the year end we've got the check data, chart of accounts, the backup, and the archive. So this option is always ticked as default. So it will, unless this has been unticked, you should always have an archive done when you run the year end process. You can also you can't change the archive location, but what you can do is this box is we're going to show you in just a moment, but you can change the name in the archive folder. If you just want to do an archive outside of the year end, you just go back to Tools along the top, back to Period End, and then just under year end, we've got the Archive Company option. So this is the same window we've just looked at in year end. So you can't change the location. It will go to the C drive of where your data is held. So you can't change that. But what you can change is the description and the folder that it sits in as well. So I'm just going to leave them as it is, and we'll click OK. The archive process has been complete. So I didn't enter any dates. I didn't choose any specific areas. It hasn't removed any data. All it's done is it's taken that snapshot, that screenshot of my data and created a file that I can access at any point. So we click OK. To open an archive, you go to File in the top left, go down to Open, and then you should see the option Company Archive. If you don't see that option, it could be down to your level of access, so you may need to have that adjusted if you need to access the Company Archive. So we'll click on that. So you can see here, I've now got my archive that I've just done here. If you've you've been doing the year-end process and that option has always been ticked, then you may have a longer list than what I do of your archives. So they might have been done without you even noticing or realizing when your year-end has been complete. So all you need to do is select the one that you need to log into. So you select that one and then click Open. So then I'm going to ask for my login details. You need to be entering the login details that existed at the time that the archive was taken. If you don't have access to those details, you can contact our support team and they'll be able to support you further. So I'm going to pop in my details. Now, as you can see, it doesn't look that much different at first. But if we look along the top, you can see I've got archive in capital letters, which archive I'm in. So I've got multiple, I might have different names for them, and then my company name. So we pop into customers. You can see I can go into records, for example. What we'll do is we'll open this one up and we'll change this name from Ian Keynes. We'll just change that to Joe Blogs. And then I'll show you what that looks like when we go back into the live company. So I can change details in here. But if I was to go then create a batch invoice, for example, it's telling me that this is not available because I'm either in an archive data set or in read-only mode. So I can't create anything new in terms of transactions, but I can edit, like you say, we've got A1 Design Services there. I can edit records. One of the main purposes people tend to use this for, it tends to be if they need to run management reports, so your trial balance, your profit and loss, your balance sheet in a financial year that you know outside of your current financial year. So it's an easier way that you can just go, instead of trying to run a transactional profit and loss or a transactional management report, which not everyone has access to, you can come into the archive and just run it for that financial year, and then you can run them from the top. Also as well, nothing changes in terms of you can export them if you want. Everything's exactly the same. Only difference is it just tells you this was ran from the archive. So you still get to export, email, print reports as well. And if you do have any invoices, I don't have one in this data set, but you can come in and look at historical invoices that you've created and sales orders, purchase orders, that sort of thing. Just a question there come in from Emmy. Got an error message on your invoices. If you can, oh, just I don't have any invoices to show at the moment, but I'm assuming it's the error message if you try and go in and it tells you that you're in an archive data set or in read-only mode. So yeah, if you try to do anything like that, add anything new in there. If you're trying to look at old invoices, you shouldn't necessarily get that message, but that's something I would have to test. To go back to your live company, or even go into another company archive. So if you had another one that you needed to go into, you don't have to go back to your live company and then into another one. You can go straight into File, Open, Company Archive, and then you can select another archive if you want to go into that one. If you want to just go back into your live data, you just go back into Open Company Data. It's going to prompt for our current login details. So if they're different from the old ones, pop in your current one. Then as you can see, if I look back to the top, I no longer have archive. So that's a way that you can tell that you're no longer in your archive data set. So you can come in here and you can see we've just got the normal company name. Now, if we go into customers, and as you can see, A1 Design Services, I changed that to Joe Blogs. You can see I've changed that in the archive, but it hasn't impacted my live data. So you don't have to worry if you change anything in your archive data set, it won't impact your live data. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back to my slides. And I just want to cover the difference between, to ensure that we're all on understanding the difference between a backup, an archive, and a clear audit trail. Okay, so as we've established, the archive takes a read-only copy of your data and stores it within your data path. You open it like a separate company, and it does not remove transactions from your data, but you also do not need to specify a date to run the archive. The backup, again, does take a copy of your data, but this can be saved anywhere that you wish. It is designed to be restored into the program over the top of live data or as a separate company. Or if you're on the latest or the later versions, then you will have access to the practice company data where you can restore your backups into. Once restored in the backup, you can then edit, delete, and add new information. If you are going to restore over the top of live data, please do this with caution. Again, if you do want more information about backing up and restoring into the software, we do have a recording on our recordings page on our Help Center. And then lastly, the clear audit trail. So the clear audit trail process is to remove older transactions to reduce the size of your data and keep things tidier and more organized. You would enter a date you want to clear up to. For example, if you wanted to keep 6 years worth of data, you would enter the chosen date, and anything before that would be removed given it fits the criteria. Now, we do have sessions specific to clear audit trail and clearing records on our recordings page as well, if you want to check that out. Need to double check as well. I'm not sure if we have these sessions on next week. I might be mistaken. But like I say, if they're not on next week, then do check our recordings page as well. Okay, so to summarize the session, archiving creates a read-only copy of your data, including all historical and current information. It does not remove any transactions, so it doesn't remove any data. And you can take archives at any time, but it is typically done as part of the year end or before running clear audit trail. You will need to use the same user credentials you used when you're creating the archive. It enables you to view historical data, edit and delete records, and run reports. And just to clarify, you cannot add anything new into the archive. I have also provided guides on backing up your data and also archiving your company data as well if you do have the handout downloaded. Really good question coming there from Louise. So only when you run the clear audit trail will it hopefully speed up your Sage. So once you've run the clear audit trail, it's removed transactions. You then can do a compress of your data, which would then reclaim space. But like I said, the webinar recording will talk all about that as well. So just before we move on, I'll just to get last call for questions if you want to get them across to me and Michael now. In the meantime, just while we're waiting, I just want to mention the Banking Excellence event that we have coming up in February. So we've done the badging events before for International Accounting Day, and we've done one for VAT as well. So we've got a new digital badge coming in February, all around banking. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a short video on what's to come if you want to get registered for these sessions.
We have some exciting news for 50 accounts users. Are you ready to revolutionize your banking experience? Join us for an incredible journey through 8 sessions from February the 4th right through to the 20th, designed to streamline processing and enhance efficiency. Simply attend 6 out of the 8 sessions and the quiz to test your knowledge, and you will earn your very own Digital Banking Excellence badge. This will be added to the new Accredible portal, where you can collect and manage all your badges. From here, you can share your badges with colleagues, clients and suppliers to show your progression to becoming a Sage expert. Imagine a world where your bank transactions are simplified, Now, throughout these sessions, you'll dive deep into topics like simplifying bank transactions, managing customer receipts and supplier payments, mastering bank reconciliation, and revolutionizing your bank by automating with bank feeds. We will show you how to simplify your routine with bank recurring items and how to correct bank errors. Harness the power of e-payments and add your bank information to invoices for faster payments. Don't forget, to earn your digital badge, you need to attend at least 6 out of these 8 sessions and complete the quiz. Transform the way you work with the bank, get paid faster, and automate your processing with Sage 50 accounts.
Okay, so again, if you do want to get registered for those, you can visit sage.co.uk/webinars, but also as well, the link is going to be included in your follow-up email as well. Okay, so just before we wrap up, what I'll do is, I know we've got some questions coming through regarding how to access the webinar to help speed up Sage. So I'll just quickly show you that. Bear with me a moment. So on the Help Center, so the Sage 50 accounts, so you can just go to sage.co.uk/help. So it'll take you to this page. Click on desktop, Sage 50 accounts. And then you can get registered. So Michael's just confirmed that we do have sessions for that tomorrow. So if you go to webinars, that was just along the top here. If we scroll down, so we've got Clear Audit Trail tomorrow at 11 AM. So I was sure it wasn't this week or next week. So if you can't wait till then, we do have recordings, but we do have live sessions coming up the rest of this week. So we're talking Clear Audit Trail, clearing down customers, suppliers and nominals, clearing your records to old invoices and orders, and also stock transactions. So that's the rest of this week. You do want to get registered for those as well. Like I say, the link to your to this page will be in your follow-up email as well. Okay, so that does bring us to the end of today's session. Please feel free to stay around if you've got any extra questions to ask. If you've got what you need today and you want to leave the session, you will receive an email in around an hour or so with links to both our webinar schedule and today's recorded session for you to refer back to if needs be. Upon exiting the session, you will see a survey at the end. If you could please let me know any comments and feedback on how you thought today's session went, what you liked, what you think we could improve on. We do always love to develop our sessions as well. Okay, so we don't have any further questions that have come through. So what I'll do is I'll wrap this session up. I want to say thank you to Michael, who's been on hand today to answer your questions, and thank you to you all for your participation. Just a reminder, we've got plenty of sessions over the next couple of weeks, so don't be shy and get registered. So I want to say another thank you and take care.